All right, welcome to week 16 for the algorithm for football analysis. Last week I was 9-7. Uh, Sorry I'm posting so late. I have been on vacation with my family to uh, Disney World in Florida. So I am recording tonight, the day of. Um, so this won't help most of you, but we'll still go and talk to it. So Jacksonville is favored by, it's essentially even. Right now it shows Jacksonville favored by half a point, but uh, uh, and that's exactly what the algorithm shows as well. When I look at the Bayesian revision, that doesn't really tell me a whole lot either. So I am taking Jacksonville merely because they've played really well the last couple weeks, beating both Tennessee and Dallas. Meanwhile, I think the Jets have been a team that has been floundering, losing their last three. Granted, they've lost to some good teams, but I think they're struggling to find themselves. And so we'll see what happens. The run pass charts certainly see that the Jets have some explosiveness, um, have done a reasonably good job at protecting the quarterback. And those are some areas where I think Jacksonville needs to work on. But then again, Jacksonville's played pretty well here recently. They seem to be getting better. So with that, good luck tonight. It should be a really fun game to watch. Next game, we got Buffalo versus Chicago. Buffalo's favored by 8.5 points. Um, and that's a really big point spread. And so then when I look at what the model predicts, it shows that Buffalo is favored by about 4 points. I'm going to take Buffalo with the 8.5 point spread because in this particular case, I'm showing that the model has under predicted how well the Bills have played and is over predicted the performance of Chicago Bears. So if you see this new chart that I'm showing just under the scoreboard, is it shows that team one overperforms. So what that means then is in the 200 samples of the model, in the cases where uh, team one, as I listed in this case, the first team listed, when they perform better than average, than their average, and team two underperforms, which is exactly the case that we have here. It just shows that Buffalo wins by quite a bit. Not really sure if they're going to win by that much just because they've secured a playoff position. But at the same time, um, it's really rather hard to Buffalo is such a good team overall that sometimes it's hard not to. And then when you look at the run pass charts, the thing that really stands out to me is the fact that one, Buffalo has significant potential ability to, just because they're such an explosive team, to put up a lot of passing yards. They have a strong running game, but then you counteract that then with the Chicago run capability, and they do have some potential to put up some big plays as well. Um, so uh, certainly Justin Fields has been playing well of late, so that should be a fun game to watch either way. All right, New Orleans versus Cleveland. Cleveland is favored by 2.5 points. The algorithm has it being a fairly close game, maybe a slight edge to St. Louis. And then when I go to the Bayesian algorithm, it shows that the algorithm has largely overestimated the New Orleans Saints performance. And so with that, that's when I take that team two overperforms. And that's where I think that Cleveland, it, the model, realistically speaking, has been pretty much right on the dot then with Cleveland that has overestimated New Orleans Saints. And so this with that, I'm going to use the Bayesian revision and go ahead and select the Cleveland Browns. Look at the run pass chart. Nothing nothing crazy there. Slight advantage for New Orleans in the passing game. Advantage for Cleveland in the running game. Um, uh, Not a whole lot in the fumbled, interception, and sacked and big plays difference there. So overall, though, I think Cleveland's overall strength and power is probably going to come through on this one. Moving on to Houston versus Tennessee. I'm going to take the underdog. Tennessee is favored by 5.5. The model shows that Tennessee should win by about 6 to 7 points. But what I've also looked at is that the model has significantly, really over estimated Tennessee's capability, and it's underestimated Houston. So, and certainly with Houston, we've seen in their past few games, they're not a good team, but they've played some good teams very strong. And so with that, if I use a Bayesian revision, it says that Houston could potentially win. I'm not sure that I necessarily believe that they'll win, but it certainly shows that Tennessee's probably winning is not as high as what the points. When we look at the run pass charts here, what I would really point out is that Houston is it shows that Houston does not have a completely inept passing game, although it's really hard to tell with sometimes how garbage yards get thrown in there. Tennessee definitely has a for real running game. No one can doubt that one at all, showing that Tennessee should control the ball control as well. But then again, when I look at it, you see pretty equivalent numbers when it comes to sacks, fumbles, and big yards. Tennessee has a slight advantage when it comes to interceptions, but overall, I expect Tennessee to win. I'm just not sure they can cover the points. That's why I'm taking Houston. Seattle has lost their last two. That certainly does mean something. Whereas, but I would also point out that Kansas City hasn't exactly blown out their last two opponents who are pretty weak either. So, not really sure what that means. The run pass chart. Some things you see there. Kansas City has that huge explosiveness. When they unlock that, they are totally unbeatable. That 9.5 point spread seems small. Agreed. Uh, but at the same time, Seattle is not. They're not a bad team at all. And while they may have lost their last two games, I wouldn't underestimate them. And again, that 9.5 point spread, when you have a team that's got something to prove, that being Seattle playing against a team that has nothing to play for the playoff picture, I see them resting folks. That makes it hard to pick who's going to win. So I'm going to go ahead and take the underdog. Giants versus Vikings. Vikings are favored by 3.5 points. In this case here, I'm going to use the Bayesian revision that both teams perform better than what is predicted, which gives. So when I look at that, really what tells me the model says, hey, they're even. When I look at the Bayesian revision where both teams perform better than what is predicted, or than what the model has shown them to do, is it gives it revises it slightly upward to minus 1.8. And again, when I look at that minus 3.5, and then I also take that in consideration where Minnesota's got nothing to play for and New York does, that to me that breaks that open to say I'm not sure I really want to take that 3.5 points when I'm not sure Minnesota won that last game. They came out really flat. Look at a team like that and go, sure, you're going to win by 3.5 points. When I go to the run pass charts, Minnesota has a hard time. Both teams have a hard time protecting their quarterback when you look at it. New York is got some explosive capability, but when you look at it, neither one of them really have that highly explosive capability that you see with something like Buffalo or Kansas City. So as it should be a close game, and so with that, I'm going to take the underdog. Cincinnati versus New England. Cincinnati is favored by 3.5 points. I'm going to take New England in this particular case. Just because I think, again, Cincinnati has, I'm not sure they have as much to play for in this particular case. New England is still playing to get into the playoffs. And so then when I look at the Bayesian revision as well, which I did not circle here, it looks as though Well, as I'm looking at that, I'm not even. I think I may just very well miss this one. I think I might go ahead and hold my prediction on this one here. Uh, just because as I'm looking at it, I'm not sure I looked on the fact that Cincinnati was. So I'm going to do something I have not done here, but I'm going to switch my pick midstream, and I'm going to switch that to Cincinnati Bengals by to go ahead and take that by more than 3.5. So Detroit is favored by 2.5 points over Carolina. I'm going to take Detroit in that game. Detroit's been playing really well their past several games, and again, they lost to Detroit, to Buffalo 4 games ago. That was a close game, and then they won the 3 prior to that, despite starting the game with really poor playing. Whereas Carolina, they've certainly shown some grit this year. But the model is showing this one to where it should be pretty clear for Detroit to win, and I feel pretty comfortable with that 2.5 points. And then when I look at the Bayesian, Detroit should definitely be winning that one. And for the run pass chart, uh, not too much really here steps jumps out at me. When I look at the upper left hand chart, pretty equivalent, slight advantage for the passing for Detroit. Uh, both teams should probably get right around 70 plays in. And that's total plays. So that's kickoffs, pass, run, everything. Then when I look at the explosiveness, Detroit, it shows slightly better explosiveness, a lot better ball control, which oftentimes makes a difference in these algorithms. So is Atlanta versus Baltimore. Baltimore is favored by 7.5 points. I'm going to take Baltimore in this case. The model uh, overestimates both of these teams, so that's why I'm using the Bayesian revision of both teams to underperform. That shows Baltimore should be favored by a little over 5 points if when you look at it that way. So it shows that Baltimore's favored by 7.5. So again, when it comes to the point spread, that is going to be a close one. Indeed, it certainly is. 7.5 points is pretty big. I can certainly understand why someone would not. In this case here, I think at Baltimore with a hungry team, I don't know if Lamar Jackson's playing. If he is, then that should certainly improve that quite a bit. So, and then when you look at, I think Atlanta is really just falling apart right now. Not entirely sure what's going on with their quarterback situation. Um, so that is certainly going to have a part to play in it. Then when I look at the run pass chart, again, these are also really difficult right now, considering that both teams don't have their primary quarterback. Uh, um, I don't think Atlanta really has one, and uh, with Baltimore, I don't know if Lamar Jackson's coming back, so it's really difficult to evaluate these with a backup quarterback in either case. So I tend to look at their running game; they're pretty equal in this particular case. But when I look at and then when I look at the ball control, not a whole lot of difference there. So uh, I can, I think Baltimore can win, should win. The 7.5 points is the biggest thing that I'm really thinking about. But with that, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and take Baltimore on the 7.5 points. San Francisco against the Washington Commanders. San Francisco is favored by 7.5 points. San Francisco has been playing really well since they've got Christian McCaffrey. And just look at the number of games in a row that they've won. They've really solidified that. I do think that Washington is a solid team. When I look at the Bayesian revision, not really sure that is going to tell us a whole lot. If anything, it would say that it's entirely possible that San Francisco blows them out. When I look at that, because it's saying that it's well, no, take that back. I think it's going to be more even to where it's just going to be because I'm not seeing a whole lot of misidentification of either team really being their prediction. The model seems pretty good. run pass charts. Uh, um, this is always kind of interesting. San Francisco looks like they've been showing having a little bit of problem protecting the quarterback, but I don't think too bad. The other thing I would say is what's interesting with San Francisco is the fact that they're on their third string quarterback now, so that does throw off some of the model. But with that, they've been playing so well. I think his name is Purdy. He's been playing fantastic, to say the least. Um, but I think all the way around, their defense has been phenomenal. They've been good and getting better. I do expect the San Francisco defense to put a lot of pressure onto the Washington quarterback. As you can see, that it's showing that somewhere between 3 to 4 sacks or quite a few more is highly likely. Um, Not expecting a whole lot of explosiveness. Both teams have good uh, defenses, so it should be a really fun game to watch. If you ask me, I'm really looking forward to watching this one. Looking at Philadelphia versus Dallas, Dallas favored by 4.5 points. If I'm not mistaken, I think I saw that Jalen Hurts was hurt. Uh, and so then when I also look at this one here, is it shows me when I use a Bayesian revision, Philadelphia is dramatically overrepresented, overestimated. They don't perform as well. The model like as much as the model represents them. It likes them. The model likes them too much. Meanwhile, it's underrepresented how good Dallas normally plays. This last loss to Jacksonville was interesting nonetheless to see how they completely lost over that one. But I think Philadelphia has secured their playoff spot. Meanwhile, I don't think Dallas has, or if they have, is it's not as strong as that they would like. So if nothing else, I think Dallas needs to come out and show better than what they have been. So when I use the Bayesian revision, it shows Dallas should win this one by more than the 4.5 points, and so that's why I'm taking that one along with them being. When I look at the run pass chart, again, these can sometimes be a little bit, I won't say misleading, but difficult to understand because once you start getting backup quarterbacks, and it's really hard when you start getting in a situation where teams don't need to win. That's the hardest time of year, I think, to try and make predictions. But that notwithstanding, it looks like both teams are going to have a hard time protecting their quarterback. Dallas has had a big turnover problem indeed. And Philadelphia, they've got a very explosive team. You can see that in the bottom right hand corner. It shows a lot of possibilities for significant big plays going on. So, but I think that also all is under the impression that uh, Philadelphia has they're playing up to the level they can. I'm not sure that they have any incentive to do so. Raiders versus Steelers. Pittsburgh's favored by 2.5 points. The model likes them by about that same amount. Really not a whole lot to see when it comes to the Bayesian analysis there either. Generally speaking, though, I think the Raiders are just really inconsistent in how they play. Uh, Sometimes they're really good, and sometimes they just don't seem to show up to play. Pittsburgh, I think, has definitely been showing trends of improving throughout the year. Run past charts. It shows that they're pretty evenly matched with Vegas having better passing game and Pittsburgh having a better running game, showing that Pittsburgh should be able to control the ball a bit more throughout the game as well. What I'm also seeing is that looks like the Pittsburgh's gonna have a hard time protecting their quarterback, not quite as much as explosiveness, but at the same time they're protecting the ball a bit better as well. So again, it's I think the Raiders should be better than what they are, but I think Pittsburgh's just been playing a more solid game, and it shows up in the numbers, which shows up in the Green Bay versus Miami. Miami is favored by 3.5 points. The model likes Green Bay. I'm sorry, likes Miami by about 1.5 points. Really, not a whole lot to see. In fact, there's nothing to see with the Bayesian output whatsoever. And so, with that, I'm going to take the under because 3 points is about where I draw the line to say, do I really think the game is just a toss up? Um, and I think it is. I think it can be either one of their games. So if it's more than three, I want to see that one team clearly has an advantage than not. I realize that it's at Miami. I don't know that that's going to make a difference at all for Green Bay. So uh, with that, it should be a highly competitive games because I don't think either team has secured a place in the playoffs just yet. So past charts, both teams have a lot of explosiveness, particularly Miami. Miami's a really fun team to watch. But at the same time, I'm not surprised to see this, but Green Bay does a really good job of controlling the football, which can make all the difference. When they're able to control the football, not turn over, which Aaron Rodgers is prone to do sometimes, but when they're able to control the ball and they can protect Aaron Rodgers, which the model shows that they should be able to do a pretty good job with here. They can control the ball and do a good job controlling the field position. They should be able to constrain uh, Miami and put themselves in a position to win, if not cover the point spread. Denver Broncos versus the LA Rams. Both of these teams stink. There's nothing worse than trying to predict who's going to win between two really poor teams. And so in this case, Denver's favored one by 2.5 points. And so in my mind, that's a toss-up game. The model is saying that Denver should win by quite a bit. I would also point out that it says that it's over predicted Denver and under predicted the Rams, in which case it says if that's the case, the Broncos are still favored to win by 1 point. And so if that's the case, I'm still going to take that team to win, just because I think the Rams have been such a poor team. Denver, interestingly, appears to have played better without Russell Wilson. But then again, they played against a really poor Arizona Cardinals team who was missing Kyler Murray. So it's hard to read that one. Like I said, trying to predict who's going to win between two really poor teams because they're just not playing consistently. That's the funny part about the NFL. They're all really good teams. They just aren't being consistent for one reason. And I'm sure they're all for very different reasons. But I think in the case of the Rams, they are injured, beat up. They just don't have much to put out there. Meanwhile, I think Denver should be a lot better team than what they are. I can't figure out why they're playing so poorly. Run pass chart with the Rams, no big secret. They can't protect the quarterback. Denver hasn't really been doing a whole lot better job of it. Uh, uh, but that notwithstanding, Denver hasn't been throwing the interceptions. The turnovers haven't been that bad. Denver should win this game. We'll see what happens with Baker Mayfield, but I can't imagine that that's an easy transition to just step into an offense like that and be able to get it started. So, 2.5 point spread for Denver. Denver should win, and if it's less than 3 points, I think you may as well go ahead and take who you think is going to win the team or win the game. Tampa Bay versus Arizona. Tampa Bay is favored by 6.5 points. I'm going to take that. That's what the model is saying, that it should be about 6.5 point spread. Arizona without Kyler Murray. Again, they were poor with Kyler Murray. They've gotten worse without him. I see there Tampa Bay, as poor as that team is, as poor as that conference is, looks like that they still need to win and they should be able to make the playoffs. And I have no doubt in my mind that Tom Brady is going to will that team to win. Whether he does or not, who knows? But nonetheless, that dude's got something to play for, and I think he's going to go out there and really push to get that done. When you look at the the run pass charts here, one of the things that really jumps out at me is Arizona can't protect the quarterback. They're turning the ball over a lot, and you see the exact opposite from Tampa Bay. That should make a big difference in the team in the game tomorrow or on Saturday, I should say. When you look at the Chargers' last 4 games, they've only their highest scoring game is 25 points. So they haven't been putting up a lot of points this year at all. The Chargers haven't. And then when you look at the Indianapolis Colts in their last game, they put up 36 points, and then they gave them all back up. But the fact of the matter is that last game. So if they can control the ball and play just a smidgen of defense, it could very well be a close game. So I'm going to go and take the under. concludes this week. I hope everyone has a good week, and we will talk next week.